Hey guys, Stefan here, the Photobook Guru, and today I'm going to talk to you about what's the difference between silver halide and digital photobooks. So what is silver halide? This is probably the most common question that I get on my blog and on my videos and in the comments, and I don't think I properly addressed it before, and I understand that it can be confusing to some of you, especially if you don't know the chemistry behind. More and more companies are coming up with their photo books saying that ours is silver halide printed and therefore it's the best you can get. Now, that might not be completely true, but it is indeed a superior quality. And in this video I'm going to try to show you the main difference between the two methods, what they are, what are the differences, the pros and cons, and which one to choose for what kind of photo book. So what is silver halide? It basically means that light is exposed onto chemically coated light-sensitive photo paper, and the particles, the chemicals, are going to react differently to the different wavelengths of the light. So red, green and blue all have a separate coating layer on the paper, and therefore when they're exposed to light they're going to leave a mark. And once the paper has been exposed to light, then it goes into a developing stage where all the remaining particles are washed off and the colors just magically appear on the paper. Now, without going into too much science, because I don't want to explain the chemistry behind, I want to keep this concise and practical. Since the atoms are really tiny and invisible to the human eye in the chemical process, the image is going to be a lot more fluent, and the shades and the transitions are going to be seamless. And this is also called continuous stone printing because it's not made up of dots. So the chemicals are going to create the colors as opposed to putting separate dots onto the pages. Now, what is digital printing? Digital printing is basically everything else. But the term is so vague. It can be anything from your inkjet printers at home, it can be HB indigo printers, it can be complete industrial offset printers, but the method is the same. What happens is that the picture has to be transformed digitally and reduced into very tiny dots, and these dots or pixels are going to represent an ink droplet. And the whole process is based around ink transfer. So while in the chemical process, chemicals were used to get the colors onto the paper, in the digital process, dye or ink is transferred onto the paper from a different medium, which can be your print head in the inkjet printers, or it can be rollers in the offset printers, but the idea is the same. Now, this is called half-tone printing because the image is never going to be completely fluent since it's made up of clusters of dots. But since these dots are really tiny, when you look at them from an arm length, you're not going to notice them, and it's an optical illusion and you will see it as a continuous image. But when you magnify the pictures, you'll see a big difference between silver halide, continuous stone printing, and digital half-tone printing. So I have two books here. One is from Bali, and I've got the same pictures in the same book in a silver halide book and in a digitally printed book. And I've also got a book from Mixbook, which has been digitally printed off India, and I've got the same book which was printed with myphotobook.co.uk, and it was printed using a silver halide method. Now I'm going to show you some of the pictures in an up-close way. I'm going to show some of them here as well, but it's obviously not so easily visible from this distance. So let's start to talk about the pros and cons and the main differences. First thing is color. Now, when you think about silver halide, it's using light, RGB light, so color reproduction is always going to be very accurate and a lot more natural looking than with digital printers, which have to transform RGB light into CMYK or whatever color they are using in the printing process. Some printers use 20 colors, some printers use 4 colors, but anyway, it has to be converted and printed out, so there is going to be a mismatch between the colors. The blacks are also a lot deeper, and shadows and highlights are much better in silver halide print, and therefore is the #1 preferred method in portrait photography because you don't see any dots in the skin texture. Shades are very natural, it resembles the human skin perfectly, and also the shadows can be quite deep without losing much detail. So let me show you in the book two pictures. So this is the page I'm going to talk about. This was taken at Taj Mahal. You can see two portrait pictures and one which is architecture, so the building itself. As you can see, the skin tones are really nice and accurate in the Silver Halide book, and the Taj Mahal looks nice and white and the sky is blue. Now when I go to the same page in the digitally printed book, you can see that the colors in the skin tones are very oversaturated. There is a mismatch, they look slightly more yellowish, and the same can be seen in the Taj Mahal as well. Let me show you a second page. So here is a picture in the Silver Halide book of some flowers, and you can see that the colors are a lot more vibrant, deeper and richer than the same picture in the digitally printed book. So I hope it's visible. So we talked about color, now let's talk about sharpness and detail. So this is where Silver Halide can fall short of quality or expectations. When you think about continuous stone printing, there's going to be no sharp edge in between the colors and the shades, and also there's going to be no pixelation, so nothing is made up of dots, and therefore it's very smooth. Now this works perfectly on skin tones and nature, but when you want to see very fine detail like elements in architecture or text, very rich text, then digital books will perform better because the contrast around the edges of the details is going to be stronger. So I'm going to show now here another picture which you'll see up close. Here you can see the door of the Taj Mahal, and although the colors look better in the Silver Halide, the details seem sharper in the digital book. Also, if you look at the jewellery, you can see that the edges again look sharper despite the blacks and the colors being deeper and richer in the Silver Halide print. The third thing I want to talk about is durability. Silver Halide prints are very durable because it's a chemical process. They are fairly scratch resistant, and since they go through a wet process, they are not going to be so sensitive to dampness and wetness. However, digital prints, since the ink is basically sitting on top of the paper, it's not part of the paper, it's going to be more sensitive to smudges, and also the inks might fade and get blurred easier than on the Silver Halide prints. Now if your books get printed in an offset printer, this is less of a problem because in the offset printing process inks actually sink into the paper because of the rollers, so it's going to be less of a problem. Finally, let's talk about which method is best in what kind of books. If you think about portrait photography, babies, weddings, always go for Silver Halide printing because it's going to give you the most natural skin tones. It's going to be very kind to your skin and the shades, highlights and shadows in the photos. If you want to do a wildlife or nature photography book, then again Silver Halide is going to be much better because whenever you think about nature, you want the colors to look natural. So nature and wildlife pictures again are going to benefit from the deep, rich, accurate colors of Silver Halide prints. If you want to do a textbook or a book very rich in text, then I would probably suggest going for a digital book, because when you have too much text you can't take the full benefits of Silver Halide prints. Also, text is going to look less sharp in Silver Halide books. Digital is going to be much better for your wallet and also much better with the text. Architecture and portfolio. If you want to create a book from your pictures that you took of buildings and designs and graphic design, always do a digital book, since the most important thing here is to see the fine details in these designs and photographs, and digital is going to give you a sharper result, and also you can do the Pantone color schemes in offset printing. Travel books. Now this is probably the hardest one to choose. I myself really struggle to choose between Silver Halide and digital books. Travel books can be so varied. It's basically a marriage of landscape photography, portrait photography, text, memorabilia, also architecture. So in a travel book, because you see so many things, you see people, you see buildings, you want to write down stories, it's going to be everything, so it's very hard to choose which book to go for. I would say if your book has mostly pictures and you want to retain the color, and that's the most important thing to you, and the shades and the highlights, shadows, go for the Silver Halide. But if you have lots of text and your pictures are not amazing, they were taken with a phone or something which doesn't actually give you a very high resolution image, then probably go for the digital option. Instagram and Facebook. If you do books from your Instagram and Facebook feed, I would probably always go for digital. These pictures are not high resolution. When you upload something onto Facebook or Instagram, it's going to shrink the quality of your images. So pointless to spend a lot of money on getting silver halide prints when the source to start with is not excellent. Also, these books often contain tags, comments and geotags and things like that, so there's going to be quite a lot of text, so digital is going to perform better and also is going to be much cheaper. And finally, let me mention a few companies that you can use for silver halide and digital. This list is by no means complete and I haven't researched all around the world. These are just some of the companies that come to my mind. If you want to get a silver halide book, the problem is most cities are going to have a wedding bookmaker. However, most of these companies are not going to serve regular customers, just professional photographers. But there are a few big companies in the world who are starting to do now silver halide books for the average customer, such as Ziano, myphotobook.co.uk, Sal Digital, Bob Books, digital books. Basically everything else that is not silver halide is digital. 90% of the photo book market is still shared by digital photo books. Now the problem is that when you think about digital, because the term is so vague, the final quality can be very different depending on the printer they are using. So the best ones I've seen in the past year were from Free Prints, Shutterfly, Printastic was really good in print quality, and also Apple was really good with the colors and reproduction. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you still have questions about silver halide and digital print, leave them in the comments box. I'm going to try to answer them as much as I can. If you go onto my blog, you can see more up-close images of what I was talking about and also a written version of it if you want to read more. Follow me on Facebook if you want to see my travel pictures. Follow me on Instagram. Thank you for watching, and as always, subscribe for more.